بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم تسليما على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن السادة التابعين وعلماء العالمين والأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلدين إلى يوم الدين آمين. So we're going to continue with our study of the text Masalik Jinan, which is the path to the gardens by Sheikh Amadou Bamba, rahimahullah. So this is a text on Tasawwuf, another poem by Sheikh Amadou Bamba, but it also covers aspects of Aqidah as well as some fiqh and encouragements to follow the Sunnah, encouragements on correct belief, as well as the whole the core of it is about character rectification through spiritual purification, through remembrance of Allah, through emulating the Prophet inwardly and outwardly, and through practice of the knowledge of the deen. So we left off. We're still in sexual weird in the section of the weird. And last time we left off, he had explained to us who the awliya are, what is wali, things of this nature, the difference between a wali and a nabi, and the difference between mu'jiza and karamat. So then he continues. Now he's getting into more of and he also discussed the type of weird that you should have. He spoke about that. Uh, he also spoke what it consists of, to be wary of invalid weird awrad or invalid so-called murshidun, those who claim they're trying to call you to a spiritual path or the way, and they aren't upon the correct aqidah or aren't upon Quran and Sunnah with the proper understanding of the Salaf Salih. All of these are prerequisites and conditions for a sound weird and for a sound path to spiritual purification. Then he continues, he says, if you happen to go for a particular weird, perform it with consideration and due regard for its special conditions, so you'll gain the greatest advantages. So basically, some awrad come with instructions from the murshid or the sheikh, uh, such as like being in wudu or saying it a particular amount of times. These are done to encourage the murid to have respect for the weird, to be in a state of purification, because you are reciting the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are reciting salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is an emulation of the righteous scholars of the Salihin and of the Awliya, such as like Imam Malik, who would always make sure he was in wudu and he was well dressed, and he would be at the masjid and have his whole the setup would be right, and then he would teach hadith. This is the only way he would teach hadith. Or Imam Bukhari, radiallahu anhu, who made wudu before each hadith he was taught or memorized or related. He always made sure he was in wudu before each one. So these are just examples of how we emulate the righteous. As Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah said, though I am not righteous, I love the righteous, and perhaps through them I may become righteous, and not so many words. So basically, their influence will rub off on you. Perhaps you will get some of what they have. That nur that they have, that they bring to you. So that's why it's important to have when you take that bay'ah or you agree to listen to your sheikh, to your spiritual guide, you do it without question. If he's telling you to be in wudu or the where it comes with certain prerequisites, you want to fulfill them in order to get the full benefit, because there's a wisdom behind these things. And then he continues, he says, as for he that makes inkar, meaning he rejects or denigrates any importance or usefulness of the weird, mocking it or making it a joke out of reluctance or scorn or hatred. This person is a narrow-minded, ignorant person, as conveyed by the remarks of the distinguished scholar Ibn Allah in his work Al-Hikam. So this is a very famous book on Tasawwuf, Al-Hikam, by Ibn Allah, rahimahullah. So what he's basically saying here is basically the one who makes inkar, like who rejects it or talks bad about it, says the weird is, oh, this did that, this is wrong. This type of person is narrow-minded and they're ignorant. They're a jahil person. They don't really know the deen. This is what Ibn Atul, he's he's repeating or reiterating what Ibn Abdullah, the great scholar, said in his book, Al-Hikam. Is a must-have for all of us. For anybody that's on the spiritual path, you should have this text. It's a bunch of great wisdom, and he was a great, great scholar. He was Maliki and Fiqh, actually in Aqidah, and among other, and he was a well learned scholar in other sciences as well as Fiqh, et cetera, et cetera. So, but he was very famously known. One of the things he's famously known for is his book Al-Hikam, which is the wisdoms, the aphorisms, and it's a great, great text. So he's quoting this great Sheikh. Whoever belittles the weird, belittles Awrad, belittles those who tread the path of Tazkiyah Nafs, in reality, this is this is worried about this because that's true. And this is a part of uh the suburb. It makes me think about what Sheikh Ansari Rahimullah talks about in Tazkiyah al-Wusul, his text on Aqidah. He says that one of the four things that every Muslim must know, and one of those four things or must know and practice is sabr, having sabr on the path to calling to Allah, sabr and dawah, because we must first learn, we must practice, and then call to that which we learn, and that comes in under different aspects. But in general, when you're calling, you have to have sabr. So when you're on the path of rectifying your character, of refining your spirituality, refining your spirit, of getting closer to Allah, everything the Prophet expect to have hardships. People are going to call you crazy. People are going to talk about you. People are going to say you're extreme, you're fanatical. They're going to belittle it. And these are the same people who would talk bad about an outlaw or call dhikr beads bid'ah. They don't have any outlaw during the day. They don't read the book of Allah regularly. Rarely. Some of them do. Majority of these people that speak like this, they don't do these things. They don't send salawat upon the Prophet on Friday, which he encouraged us to do. This is from Hadith. Remember, Sheikh Amadou Bamba spoke about this earlier in the Nether. He talked about how these things come from the Quran and the Sunnah, the authentic narrations. He said that specifically, the Sahih, that which we know to be attributed to the Prophet, that which we know to be attributed to his actions, to his speech, as well as his companions, and as well as those who follow them. So that isnad is an isnad, or in our silsila, our spiritual chain, just like there's an isnad in the raja of our hadith, the men of hadith, just like there's an isnad in all of the sciences that we learn, that unbroken chain that goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, that goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the Quran and the Sunnah. This is the protection, as Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah said, that the isnad is from Islam. In his opinion, it was a protection for Islam, because if it was not for the isnad, then people could say whatever they wanted to about the deen. And this is no different. This is a science, just like fiqh, just like hadith, just like tafsir. It has its own terminologies. It has its own shurut. It has obligations. It has makruh. It has mandub. And one of the things that is the condition you have to develop is a tough skin, and so to speak. You have to ignore it. Don't be affected by those who make inkar. Don't be affected by those who belittle this practice, no matter how close or distant they are from you. And as Sheikh Salih Rahimullah said, if you want to implement the hadith about the Ghuraba, if you want to be of the al-Ghuraba, of the strangers, then expect to be away from the majority of the Muslims today. And that's a shame, because what Sheikh Ahmad Rahimullah is warning us against right now is other Muslims. This inkar doesn't come from the kuffar. It's going to come from other Muslims. Other people who say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, but will criticize you for sending 100 salawat on the Prophet on Friday. When Allah commands us, as the angels do, they all send prayers and peace upon his messenger. It's a command from Allah to send peace upon him. And he said himself, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to send abundant salawat on me, especially on Yawmul Jumu'ah. Abundant means a lot. So if after prayer, I want to do most, if you are doing the Tesbih Fatima, the 33s as we call them, if I want to sit there and do La ilaha illallah a few times, if I want to say Ya Latif, if I want to say Ya Rahman, Ya Musawwir, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, why is this wrong? What is wrong with that? How is that a bid'ah? To have my tongue wet with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with prayer upon Prophet when this is what I'm supposed to do. The best speech is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the best way is the way of the Prophet. This is what he did. He told us the best way, the best dhikr of Allah is La ilaha illallah, and then Alhamdulillah, and then Subhanallah, and Takbir. This all comes from the Quran and Sunnah. That's why this text is so important. The study that we're doing is so important, because he clarifies what the misconceptions of this are, and can be. So once you understand this and it's clear to you, you can have confidence and have that certainty and that firmness that what you're doing is halal, that what you're doing is from the sunnah, that what you're doing is a good thing. So ignore those who make inkar. So he to talk a little further about Ibn Atullah, he was a great Maliki Sheikh of the Shadhili Tariqa. He practiced tasawwuf. He was a Sufi. Uh, it was said if it were permissible to recite anything other than the Quran and Salat, then it would have been permissible to recite Al-Hikam. This is a great, great honor that scholars of the Deen have given this text. Look at what they said. If there was anything other than the Quran that was permissible to be recited in prayer, it would have been Al-Hikam. That's how much benefit. That's how much wisdom. That's how much it will soften the heart. This book. It's in English. It's translated. It's available. I have to have it. Al-Hikam. It's a must-have. And this is the why. And this is the beauty of Islam. See this Isnad the chain. Look who he's quoting from. A scholar who was so great that other scholars said if there was another book we could recite during prayer, it would be his. But this isn't just some Joe Schmo. This isn't some nobody who doesn't know about the science of spirituality, the science of character rectification. That starts within. This is the ilm al-bati. This is the ilm about what the inward knowledge. We focus on is the exoteric, but we on the zahir. But even with the zahir, we never see the batin within the zahir. When we make the salat, we're just shells. That's why the one who doesn't have tasawwuf, the one who doesn't have any intention of sincerity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's like a body with no soul, as Sheikh Salih said. He's alive, but he's dead. Because the heart is dead. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks upon this many times in the Quran. We want to go to Allah with a pure heart. We want to go to Allah with sincerity. So we have to purify ourselves. How do we purify ourselves? By just doing the bare minimum? No. By going by pushing yourself to retain your tasawwuf to me, and Allah knows best, is all about how to train yourself to avoid the prohibition. It's not even so much about the command. A lot of people obey the command. They pray their fast. They fast. They might not fornicate or do drugs or really anything crazy. Keep covers properly, etc., etc. They might not be doing nothing crazy. But they don't avoid the prohibition because of Allah. They do it for other than Allah. For riyah, the law. I don't want to get in trouble. Not for Allah. You still want to do it, but you don't turn from it for Allah. And this is why Allah hasn't removed the want from you for it. Once you change for Allah, Allah is going to replace it with something better. He promises us this. So yeah, you may do the bare minimum. You may adhere to the obligation, but what about avoiding prohibition? That diminishes your reward when you go from prayer to doing haram. We have to be mindful of this. Go ahead, Mathis.
I was going to say, I think that's a very powerful point. You know, you can imagine it, like a lot of people, they might not do a crime because they're scared of going to jail, not because it's haram, or they're afraid to do zina because they don't want to get HIV, but not because it's sinful or remove their iman. So that's just a very powerful point, and that's why they continue to do it, and it wasn't removed for them. That was very powerful and beneficial.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And this is what we seek. We seek in the benefit through the barakah of Sheikh Amadou Bamba through this text and learning. And this is the beauty behind it. That's why this text is I'm so glad my Sheikh chose to teach us it, because I didn't know about it, and I think it's very important we need to not only get this work out, but the benefits behind it, because it's a beautiful text. And you're right, and that's an important point. The niyat, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Innama al-amalu bin-niyati wa innama likulli imra'u manawa." Indeed, intention is indeed actions are commensurate, but by intention, everybody will have that which he intends. It's a very important hadith. It's comprehensive and it speaks to our niyat, which is the core of everything we do. You must have proper intention. So you might not be doing something haram, but you're not doing it because you fear Allah. You're not doing it because Allah forbid it. You're doing it because Like he said, it's against the law. So when you get married to a brother, you willing to bring another woman into the bedroom to please your man because you still like girls. You still with all of that freaky deaky. You didn't stop doing it because Allah said it's haram and it's filth and it's homosexuality, man or woman, and you should hate what Allah hates. Not talking about the person, I'm talking about the act. You didn't do it for that. So when he getting high on drugs, when he's selling drugs, when he's doing wrong, she's scamming. They be Muslims doing this, a Muslim couple, because they don't fear Allah. As long as the people don't see it, as long as the police didn't see it, as long as my parents don't see it. But what about Al Basir? What about the one who is Al Basir, the one who is As Sami, the one who is Al Khabir, the one who is Al Alim? Did Allah not say Surah Al-Baqarah? How can you disbelieve in Allah when you know that He is the one when you were dead and He gave you life, and then He will make you die again, and then He will give you life again, and to Him is the return. This is about ilm. Once you know, this is why ilm precedes action. Once you know about Allah, it has to change your niyah. So now I'm doing it for Allah because I know that Allah's word is true, and Allah told me that if I turn from something for Him, He'll replace it with something better. I made myself dislike something I might have liked because I want to dislike what Allah dislikes. Because this is how I get closer to my Lord. I'm going to avoid that prohibition for Allah. And that's what's going to give you the strength to kick those addictions. I'm not necessarily drugs. There's different types of addictions. Those bad habits, that's how you kick them through the awrad. That's why the Sheikh, that's why they developed this science. To do these things to keep you from doing other things, and eventually these things will become love to you through the repetition, and now you won't even have an interest in those other things. You'll forget how to do them after a while. And it's been so long, I don't even know how to roll the blunt no more, bro. I don't even like the smell of it no more. It's been so long, I don't even like girls that look like that no more. I don't even like guys that talk like that no more. I'm not even on that no more. And that ain't even cool no more because you've been doing something else. This is why you're supposed to surround yourself with good company. Sheikh Amadou Rahimahullah talks about that too. The importance of having righteous companionship. People who remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not necessarily what they say, but just being around them. You can't be all, yeah, you know what I'm saying, my nigga. You're not gonna be like that with the brothers you respect, with the brothers of knowledge. You're not gonna carry yourself like that. You're not gonna be all around them type of sisters that you really respect. You're gonna be like that with the sisters you can get that off with. Them the ones you need to stay away from. Because the other brothers and sisters, hold on, that's a lot. What you talk? You can't go up to the brother you respect, the student, and be like, yeah, bro, thick. I just seen the fuck out the match here. You can say that to your man. But you can't say that to that, bro. He gonna say that's for Allah. He gonna give you an ayah. The Allah not say, Lord, you gave you. We call him the haram police. Oh, here he come, man. He always beating me in the head. That's what you need, somebody to beat you in the head. The shaitan beating you in the head with the dunya, you don't complain about that. Doing you all day, 24/7. When we open our eyes, most people before they even say any type of dua, think Allah, they grab their phone. They don't even check. They check on their kids. They check their phone and their statuses before they check their kids. I guarantee you, there's so many people that do. The first thing they do, they don't even check on their kids. They check that phone. Just leave it right there. Especially if that's their it's not even necessarily the way they get paid. It's their way of life. Like they so engrossed in what the people think and what creation has to say about them. That's the downfall of social media. The need for validation from other people. We don't want validation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't want love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't want love of the awliya. We won't go to visit graves and follow the sunnah the way he said to visit the sick and respect our parents. But we want validation for people behind the screen that we don't even know. But if we get a blue check and we get a certain amount of likes, we feel real good. I'm no different. Post something and you check, man, you like, oh, man, it's 3 hours, man. Know what time to post? I posted it too late. I posted at 12. I got to drop that a little earlier so people gotta be honest with ourselves. We gotta change these type of things. It all starts with your intention. So I ain't mean to go on a tangent like that, but alhamdulillah. So then he continues when he's speaking about these people who make inkar. He said, any person resolved to not perform a weird and so goes on dissipating his lifetime in some less profitable activities, that's not a weird. So he's saying he's wasting his time. Any person who's resolved to not perform more weird, and so he rather go and spend his time on something not beneficial. Because remember, awrad, as the Sheikh explained, rahimahullah, is not necessarily just a weird is when you seek knowledge. going to class, reviewing your notes, reading the Quran, doing things that are of ilmu nafiyah, beneficial knowledge. The deen, usul deen. There's always, like my teacher, Imam Amin Muhammad, Hafidullah said, there's no such thing as being bored. There's always something you could have been doing. You could have been reviewing. I just listened to something about the benefit of one of the ways to memorize, and this is we and the brother were just talking about Mauritania. In Mauritania, the minimum that a student memorizes one page is 70 times, but most of the time they do it 400. 100 times to the east, 100 times to the west, 100 times to the north, 100 times to the south. They face that way and they keep going over it every day. 3 hours a day, the same page over and over. The minimum, he said, 70 times. I tried it today for the first time. It took me like about 45 minutes. It was different. I'm working on Ibn Asher, just memorizing the same couple lines over and over. This is the repetition this is the time, beneficial knowledge. We'll say that's too much, but we don't have no problem putting overtime in at the job for that paycheck. Putting all types of time and effort in hollering at shorty or hollering at homeboy, honing our basketball skills, football skills. They'll train on, man. He loves, boy, he stay with that football. That's all he want. That's all he want to do is box. He stay in that gym. You need to stay in the gym of the deen, stay in the gym of knowledge, and that stay in them books too. I'm not saying you can't do other things, but that should never dominate your deed. Islam is our way of life. We have religious practices, but it's a way of life that we have to study how to practice every day. Because different mas'ala, different situations come up every day that you will need to apply your Islamic knowledge to. Whether it's a relationship with other people, whether it's your relationship with yourself, your relationship with Allah, and relationship with His Messenger. This is why Sheikh Bamba broke it down into three divisions, the three divisions of adab. Adab with Allah, adab with His Messenger, adab with His creation. And this connects to your fiqh. And then that connects to your tasawwuf. Because how your character is being refined will affect how you deal with your adab with creation, with the Prophet ﷺ, and with Allah. See, it's like a lot. It all connects. That's why it's called usul, foundational. I have the knowledge. I know Allah. I know His Messenger. I learned my ilahiyah. I learned my nabawiyah. I learned my samiyah, which means that, and then I learned my fiqh, how to practice these things. Okay, now I'm practicing. Now I start to call to these things. And then before I even call to it, I start working on myself. The practice goes along with the practice of character rectification through the outdoors, through learning, through disciplining yourself, or whatever issues you are trying to cure yourself from. And then we call to that through our actions and our words. So it all connects. But if you have bad at that and you're not working on your patience, when somebody in social says, man, nobody want to hear that Muslim crap, man, that's a lie, man. Jesus is God. What? You can't act like that. You have to have patience. Inna Allah as-sabirun. Indeed, Allah is with those who are patiently persevere. And what did I say earlier? That Sheikh Ansari taught us, rahimullah, in his book Tasheel Wusul ila Thalatha. He said that the fourth thing that every Muslim must know and practice is sabr with the calamities and the hardships that come with what? That come with calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that we're talking about the munkar, forbidding the wrong and encouraging the good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about that in the Quran. That the believers are the ones who what? They believe in their Lord in the unseen. That they preserve their prayers. That they encourage the good and forbid the evil. And they are patient upon the trials that come along with that. And when a calamity befalls the believer, he says what? Inna lillahi wa inna Allaha wa inna lillahi raji'un. Hasbi Allahu wa kafa. Allah is sufficient for me. These are the ones who have taqwa, the muttaqun. These are the ones who are the muqarribun, those who are seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then they practice that. And then this is what's going to remove your anxiety, remove your distress. I saw something earlier on Facebook. I think somebody posted it, said, I don't care what nobody say. When you financially stable, 90% of your stress is gone. And I wanted to comment so bad, but I didn't want to do it because I wanted to say, no, when you finally practice tawakkul and tafweed, 90% of your anxiety is gone. Because if money come and go. So if the money is what's causing you to be relaxed, what happens when the money stops? The anxiety is going to return. But if you trust and know that Allah is the one who brings the money, that Allah is the provider, He's our Razak. You know that everything you have comes from Allah. Everything that you're supposed to have, everything you will have, everything is from Allah. Wa kudratun, wa iradatun, wa ilmun, wa haya. What Ibn Ashur said. He has power, he has will, he has the knowledge, and he is the living. This is what we need to understand. So this is why the ilm, when you know Allah and you understand, and this is the awrar only is going to enhance that knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that understanding to where you start to witness. And this is the jahid to shahid, the struggle and you will witness with Imam Amin Hafidullah teaches us at the 345 Madrasa. That's our slogan, so to speak. Jahid to shahid, struggle and you will witness, struggle with the self, the jihadul nafs, the muhasiba, holding oneself to account, and then pushing yourself to overcome those things. And then the shahid to shahid, you witness to shahid, you will witness the elevation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you in your iman, in your rank, in your life. You'll see it, you'll feel it, you'll make your feet firm. And then Sheikh Amadou Bamba, he continues still talking about this type of person that's against the weird, that talks down on it and does waste their time. The golf. He says, this person will not win on the day of rewards. Nothing but pain, sorrow, and sadness. For the one who would disdain the advantages deriving from the weird, basically he's saying people who hate or reject the practice of the weird, no one would do this except that this person is filled with jealousy, hatred, and resentment for the true worshippers. So now he's saying, ignore them and know that this person is more than likely a person who would rather spend his time in heedlessness, and this person will have no reward on the day of rewards. This is the day of judgment. It has many different names, and my Sheikh taught us. He said that when something is of importance, it's named or it's spoken upon repetitively. So the day of judgment is constantly spoken upon in the Quran. Yawmul Qiyam, Al-Waqiyah, Al-Ghashiyah, Yawmul Qiyam, Yawmuddin, whatever. It's many of them. So it's described also as the day of reward, Yawmul Thawab. So or Yawmul Athwab. You see what I'm saying? So the day of the rewards. So this is what Sheikh Qadim Rasul Rahimullah is saying. So he said basically, the only person that would do this is somebody who's hateful or jealous of the true worshipers. What does he mean, true worshipers? Those who are sincere. A true worshiper is going the extra mile to seek near to Allah and doing fikr. So anybody who will belittle this act or belittle these people is only jealous of that person. You just a hater because they're not doing anything wrong. So how you find an inkar where there's no inkar? Inkar means like to blame or to reject or say something's wrong. To make inkar, not takfir, which calls somebody a kafir, which we don't do in opportunity like that. But to make inkar, oh that's wrong. Sick of bees is bid'ah, blah, blah, blah. None of that's true. That may be an opinion of some scholars. It's not fact. They were used during the time of the Salaf. There's authentic effort on it. Because we have the isnad going back to it. The Sheikh wrote a whole book on it. You read the Reliance of the Traveler, it's clearly in there, translated by Hamim Keller. Sheikh Hamim Keller. Hafidullah translated. Great. It's encyclopedic. A whole chapter on Tasawwuf and on the Misbah. Excuse me. So I came from that too. I come from an environment from a Islamic community that anything that even resembles, smells, or looks like Tasawwuf is completely shunned, ridiculed, and shut down. Period. It's goofy. Don't do it. It's bid'ah. Sufis are not even Muslim. They are out. They put them in the same category as the Shia. It's the truth. Especially in the East Coast urban communities that are predominantly Salafi. That's the way we was taught. No dhikr beads, nothing with spirituality, nothing. They'll say tazkiyah enough, but I've never even heard of an awrad. I was never given a regimen to help me refine my character as a young man running the streets, selling drugs, fornicating, all the stuff we was doing. There was no murshid, there was no guide to help us refine our hearts. We just cut our pants and grew beards and stopped eating pork. But our character was disgusting. It was appalling. It was like, I hate to say this, it was kind of like, my mother always said it. She said, you could dress it up or you could spray it with perfume, but doo-doo is still doo-doo. And that's kind of how I feel like we dressed up garbage. We took a bunch of garbage and put nice clothes on it. We put the clothes of Islam on the garbage cans that was our hearts. And I'm not saying my heart is pure now, but I wasn't even on the path to know how to purify it. I didn't even know about the hadith of the Prophet. What softens the hard heart is dhikrullah. I never heard these type of things, and I didn't know. I only thought dhikr was the 33s. I didn't know dhikr, what that word, the vastness and all-encompassing meanings of these things. So this all is the ni'mah and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to traditional Sunni Islam, to learn through proper qualified teachers, to learn qualified textual evidences, as well as our rational proofs for everything that we do, for every science. It connects to understand our religion. Because when you have that yaqeen, your iman is increased. This is why Ibn Abi Zayd, rahimahullah, he said in the Risala, in the Aqidah section, he briefly talked about how the thinkers cannot, like, they can't imagine Allah. We don't try to use our intellect to imagine the that of Allah, the essence of Allah. Rather, we use our intellect to read, to watch, to know His existence through His signs. And it's only through Allah blessing you with that understanding that you will even understand that. This is an important aspect of our beliefs, because that affects our tasawwuf. A lot of brothers I talk to sometimes, they have a complaint with certain, circles they go into. They say, they only, fit by culture. They don't really, they're not really, they don't really care about Aqidah and stuff like that. Them the type of majlis you should stay away from. Anybody who disregards Aqidah, the Prophet taught Aqidah for 11 years and some months before Allah even revealed the obligation of prayer. And the Quran was coming down day and night. That's what Sheikh told us. For over 11 years, all he taught was Aqidah to the Sahabas. Tawheed, La ilaha illallah wa Muhammad Rasulullah, and what that means. The negation, the affirmation, the wajib, the mustahil, the jaiz, the mumkin. All these things that the scholars codify for us was started from the Prophet ﷺ. This is what he taught his companions. The beliefs that we have is the beliefs they have. It's not a separate belief. Yeah, they gave it a name for the scholars who codified it, because in their time, Imam Ash'ari, Imam Tahawi, Imam Maturidi, may Allah have mercy on all of them, they were faced with opposition. Abu Hanifa was one of the greatest scholars of fiqh, but he never wrote one fiqh text. All his texts are on Aqidah. Fiqh al-Akbar, the greatest fiqh is an Aqidah text. Why? Because as he said, our similitude is not like the Sahaba. They lived in a time where they didn't have any enemies. They didn't have to brandish their weapons, meaning their knowledge. We live in a time where we are faced with our enemies all around us. So we have to brandish our weapons of knowledge. That's why the Al-Khalif came, that generation, the Mutakallimun of the 4th century started, and they got into theology like they did, because they had to fight the Mu'tazila and the Jamiyah and the Qadariyah and the Mujassima, the Mutashabbiha, the philosophers, all these different groups, and we have them now. We have anthropomorphists, people that have put Allah in a. And Islam says that Allah came in the form of a man, and while as far as Muhammad, no different than the Christians say Jesus is human and God. He has divinity. There's shirk, Trinity. Hindus believe in many gods. We face these same. We have Muslims who believe in messengers after the Prophet ﷺ. The Moorish Science Temple calls themselves Muslims. They say Islam means I, self, Lord and Master. That Drew Ali was a prophet. That when Allah said the seal of the prophets, He didn't mean it the way we take it. This is what they teach. As Imam Muhammad Rasulullah teaches us, he said, in order to you must learn evil in order to know how to avoid it and what to do with it when you face it. We must know these things. We must know our religion, because as Sheikh Rahimahullah explained to us, he said that the scholars say that this is why you need textual proofs. If one doesn't have the proofs and the surety of his faith can be shaken. You get a Muslim that don't really know their deed, and they get around even a Muslim who's upon a different understanding of Aqidah. It could sway them. And he's right. And that makes sense. Or even worse, a kuffar. People leave Islam. May Allah protect us from this. This happens. And it's due to what? A weakness of faith. First thing we said, man, I don't even know how you could ever go back, because we can't fathom that we would ever go back to kufr. But that's why we should make dua for it, that Allah never return us to that. And we should be grateful. This should encourage us to refine our characters more. Look how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was, that He guided us to the deen of Islam. He said, I brought you from death, meaning ignorance, and in this instance, from gave you I brought you from darkness to light, and I gave you a light with which to walk with, meaning the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet. The scholars attach this, not all the time, but in that context, because Allah also can literally bring the death, bring you death. He can send an angel of death to you, and then He will resurrect us. This is something He says is a guarantee. This is the day which there is no doubt, from a book which there is no crookedness, meaning there's no misunderstanding. This is the haq. So this is what we have to understand. This all connects with our character rectification, because your character will change when your knowledge increases with Allah, and then you know your station with Allah. You know that you're the fuqara, so you'll be automatically be more humble. That's what Sheikh man therefore Dio was talking about, and that's what Bayan in his section of the Sabbath. He's giving you the cures. One of the cures for kibr is the ayat in the Quran that speak about how Allah created you from the most impure substance, and you were a drop of blood, and He gave you flesh and bones, and then He put you in darkness in your mother's womb, and then brought you out of darkness, and then you were weak, and He made you strong, and you will return to be weak, and you will return to Him at the earth from which you came. When you know these things, when you understand these things, you humble yourself. Who are you to be arrogant when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of pride? This is why it's so important in our Aqidah. What is the first thing that the Mukallaf must learn? We talked about this in Afghani class. Which one of y'all can tell me? What's the first thing that the responsible Muslim must know? Go ahead, Mecca.
I was about to make a statement about the arrogance thing. I was just thinking that when you're an arrogant person, you know, it kind of like you forgetting that Allah gave it to you. You're responsible for what you have, and it's kind of ungrateful because you're not giving Him none of the thanks back. You made it look like you are great because of you.
And that goes to what? To the story of the men with the 3 gardens in Surah Al-Kahf. One man was ungrateful to Allah. He had 2 gardens. He had many followers and a big tribe. And he bragged to the man. And what did the believing man say? Why didn't you just say, MashaAllah? For perhaps Allah would take your garden away from you and give me one better than your garden. And that's what Allah did. He was trying to teach him, humble yourself. Why didn't you give credit to Allah? He said, nothing to be better than this. Even if I die in return, it won't be better than what I got right now. I'm the man. I'm the man, bro. I got the bag. I got money. You see my chick, she bad. I just sent her to DR. She just came back with a new body. She looking crazy. Brand new pearly white veneers. We lit. What you talking about? Wrist on free. Money, I'm good. I'm lit. This how people think. I'm better than everybody else. You a bum. You ain't got no money. You're a broke boy. I mean, look at you. You don't have nothing. You ain't nothing either. You die right now. What that money gonna do for you? I could never be broke. I'm always rich. I have Allah. I have the deen. But that didn't answer my question. But the answer to the question was the first obligation upon every mukallaf, as Sheikh Akhdari and many other scholars teach, is to have tasihu iman, to have sound belief, to learn, to know Allah. It must come first.
And to make the limbs go according to the belief.
But yeah, Ibn Ashur, that's the definition of Islam. At Ta'atun Jawarihil Jami'a, Kaulun, wa Fi'lun, wa huwa Islamul Rafi'a. He said that when all of the limbs are in obedience to Allah, the speech and the action, this is the exalted Islam. That's the meaning of Islam in his section of Qawaidul Islam. So he said that Islam, that's what Islam is complete submission, obedience. At Ta'atul Jawarihi, obedience of the limbs. Wa Jami'a, all together. Wa Kaulun, the speech. Wa Fi'lun, the action. Wa huwa, this is or it is. Wa huwa Islamul Rafi'a. This is the exalted or the raised. This is the exalted Islam. This is what Ibn Ashur, rahimahullah, teaches us. This is our Aqidah as Maliki. When I teaches Imam Muhammad Amin, I feel like he said that really, at times we could say we're Maliki in Aqidah because Imam Malik, Ibn Anas, rahimahullah, made his beliefs clear. It's not like we don't know where he stood with Aqidah. And when you read from the fuqaha of the school, you see that the Aqidah is the same. You know what I mean? Whether they call themselves Ash'ari or don't. And as I said before, that those names came from the codification of the Aqidah that had to be done in their times. So people just started to call those who agreed with them by the names of the imams. It's no different than the schools of fiqh, which there were many, and some died out in the last before that last were what we know of today. The four major schools: the Malikiya, the Hanbaliya, the Hanabiliya, the Hanafiya, and the Shafi'iyya. So to continue, but like I was saying, it all connects. The beliefs and knowing all connects to this because that knowing is what's going to protect you from these people that Sheikh Abdul was talking about. Those who are going to make it in on you. When you have certainty, you have your key in what you're doing, and you're seeking Allah, nothing else matters. Have tunnel vision. Let them say what they're going to say. And this is also why sometimes it's better to have follow-up, to seclude yourself when you do your dhikr. You don't have to do it in the masjid in front of everybody. You don't have to sit in the circles. The scholars warn this. There's a group of scholars that say you shouldn't do this at all. There's some scholars that say you should do it, and there's some scholars that say do it if it's something that you won't fall victim to. Yet. It might be better for you to be alone, have that hollow seclusion, just you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You might not want it. There's nothing wrong with those who sit in the circles, but sometimes people sit for the wrong reasons. You sit because you just want to chant and you like to, la ilaha illallah, like you like doing that, and you like people to see you. You have to be careful of your niyat. Or is it about you getting close to Allah? You may be shy. That may distract you. You might not really get much from that. But this all is a protection. You have to worry about in cars and keep it to yourself. You don't got to walk around with your dick hanging on your neck. That's not what they're for. It's not about showing everybody what I'm doing. I'm doing it for Allah. Seek obscurity. Sheikh Salik, seek to be like out the way. Don't look to be the star of the show. Fall back. Focus on Allah. But then Sheikh Amadou Bamba, he says, how can one scorn the dhikr or utterances of Allah's fine names? How can you reject dhikr or weird? How can you say it's haram? He says, by doing this regularly, continuously performed by one of his servants. So he says, how can one scorn the utterances of Allah's fine names? Which by doing this regularly and continuously performed by one of his servants. He says, all who have not been trained by a competent master in our time will surely come up against terrible ordeals. They haven't been so basically what he's saying is he concludes with talking about those people in the line prior. He says, how can you knock it? Like, how can you knock a weird? How can you knock somebody doing dhikr of Allah, reciting Allah's name? How can you knock somebody reading the book of Allah? How can you knock somebody saying prayers upon the Prophet? It doesn't make any sense. Like, how could you call that haram? And I'm not talking about doing things that go against the Quran and the Sunnah. Because remember, he already covered what a sahih weird it is. It consists praising Allah, prayers upon the Prophet, and seeking forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In between that praising Allah, it could be reciting Ayatul Kursi, like for instance, then Al Khulasa from Habib Umar, Hafidullah, one of in the chapter on the weirds after Asr is to recite Waqiyah, and then there's a few dua you can recite. You can read Waqiyah and get up, or you can read Waqiyah and then you could do La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasul, whatever you want to do. So these are just advices. This is things you can do. It's not obligatory upon you, but it's good to do these things. Take that extra 10, 15 minutes to get that barakah. Go ahead, Mecca.
I think it comes from a lot of people. Maybe they need to restudy usul al-fiqh because, I guess they're looking at it from a perspective. If the Sahaba didn't do this exact weird in this exact same way, then it's bid'ah. But it's not true because the Nabi didn't forbid it. Just because the Nabi didn't do something didn't mean that it's forbidden. Unless he, exclusively said it's forbidden. So, I just thought maybe that's because when I study usul al-fiqh, you learn that tacit approval, if you do something, the Prophet don't correct you, etc. So I think that kind of boils down to it. People not studying usul al-fiqh, they're just reading hadith and say, look, Abu Bakr Siddiq didn't do this. It's bid'ah. It's like, well, no, it's not bid'ah. Yeah, maybe it might not be what he did exactly, but it's not against what he did. He never said you can't do this.
You're absolutely right. And that comes from people not even knowing that tacit approval or his silence was his approval. This is a proof in it. It's the same thing with Sadr. Abdullah ibn Zubair prayed this way, and it's an authentic hadith where Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhu, said, if he is praying the prayer of Abdullah ibn Zubair, then no, he is praying the prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They say Sadr is a bid'ah. So this is something you're gonna go through. You know what I mean? Not knowing, and that's why you learn first. Iman, Islam, Ihsan. You don't skip. So by the time you get to starting to work on your character rectification and your spirituality, you have the protection of the foundations of that which you learned. You won't have to go through what we're talking about. You would think that something's been that you would think and know, like, wait a minute, I know this is a thick issue. Perhaps he's following something I'm not sure about. You have to see when you study and you learn properly, it'll teach you to think, to be more open minded. This is what the Wahhabiyya don't want. They want rigidness. They don't want any. They condemn taklid but command taklid. They don't really want you to learn. This is why Arabic language is not pushed in the African American Muslim communities. And I'm not saying the Wahhabiyya are because of that. I'm saying in general, we don't push. I'm talking really learning now. Sorry, uh, phonology, really knowing and understand. It's a small percentage of people that do know it. A lot of Muslims been Muslim a long time. They can't even recite their Fatiha properly. They can't even read Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. They can't read any basic Arabic. I'm not talking about being a full-fledged Arabic speaker, learning dialects and going overseas. I'm just talking about being able to read the book of Allah and in hadith, not the translation of the hadith, but the actual hadith, and know who's saying what it's about, what's going on, and have full comprehension and understanding of it like you would read an English book. We don't push this in our community, but when you study the civilizations of the ancient Islamic times, all of them did it. When Islam conquered all these lands, none of them were Arab-speaking countries. How did they master these languages? You study with a sheikh, he know his native tongue, he know another language plus Arabic. How can you understand the book of Allah if you can't read it? You will always be dependent on what somebody else is telling you. Do not allow somebody, don't allow somebody to use Islam to enslave you. That's what Imam Amin Muhammad taught us. Hafizullah. And that's what we did as black people. We got rid of the white man complex for a brown man complex. Now we got a brown savior. It's no longer the white savior, it's the brown savior. Anybody get up on the mic with a beard and a kufi? MashaAllah. We just listen. He tell us anything. We don't know. And it was a campaign to keep us in the dark. You want to hide something from a black man, you put it in the book. And you know the word they use, it ain't black man, it's the N word. You wanna hide something from him, put it in the book. When you can read and you understand and you sit with qualified teachers, this is why the ulama say that the one who only has his books and no teacher, the shaitan is his teacher. And just some advice, and also, hold on, let me go back to the text. He said, when he says that they don't have a competent master or a teacher to teach them, he says they're going to come up against terrible trials and ordeals. They're not going to know what they're doing. They might end up in a circle of people doing bid'ah, doing blameworthy bid'ah. They might come up against somebody who's not even Muslim. They might be an Orientalist, Buddhist, hybrid, Sufi, Taoism mix. They don't even know it because they don't really have proper training. But meaning they haven't been trained in proper edat. One towards Allah and secondly towards His creation. And we talked about that. But the one who and I've gotten into this with a couple of my fellow Murids in my path as well as others who disagree with me because they like to pump. You have to have a sheikh. You have to have a sheikh. Um, I agree. I disagree. Sheikh Sally also was of that opinion that that wasn't something necessary. Um, I think that is beneficial if that's for you. If Allah facilitates the situation for you to have that. But as my Sheikh advised us, he said the one who doesn't have a weird, salawat on the Prophet sallam is his weird. Prayers upon the Prophet is your weird. And the one who does not have a sheikh, salawat on the Prophet sallam is his sheikh. Because the whole point is to put your hand in the hand of the Prophet who will take you to Allah. You don't have a murshid, you don't have a sheikh, you don't have no brother to teach. Peace, send prayers upon the Prophet abundantly, regularly. Send prayers. Say tahleel, say takbir, say tasbih, say these things. Say the tasmiyah. That's your weird. It's about getting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Prophet. So a lot of brothers don't like when I say that. I end up falling out with a brother not using his platform. He said I was anti-Tariq. I'm not anti-Tariq, I'm anti-fanaticism. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Yasin, He says, Anu, Abuduni, Siratul Mustaqim. He said that worshiping me is the straight path, the Siratul Mustaqim. We're trying to be on the Siratul Mustaqim. And Allah tells us that worshiping Him, not a sheikh, is the Siratul Mustaqim. He said to the Prophet Muhammad SAW to tell us, tell them if they love me to follow you. He is our Sheikh al-Murshid. The Sheikh that you have in front of you, his job is to take your hand and put it in the hand of the Prophet SAW, and he will take you to Allah. There's no other way. Go ahead, Matt. That's the Prophet.
I think it's the fanaticism in the tariqah that has led it, what they call the goofy Sufi. It's people like that create the goofy Sufi because they stop following the Prophet and they just start following personalities and that's when they start getting real bid'ah, just making stuff up and just, do this many times and you have to do this way and you can't even talk to somebody else from a different way. And then it becomes like a gang. It becomes like a, incorrect way. So like you said, the job of the murid is to take your hand and put it in the Prophet's hand, not for you to be stuck in his hand, but for he's supposed to facilitate you to the Prophet. He's like an airport. You know what I'm saying? The airport is facilitating you to get on the plane, but the airport is not the plane itself.
Nah, that's a great analogy. You better go off speak. No, you're right. And that's and like I said, since I started studying, that's how I was taught tasawwuf. I was taught about what it is, the foundations, its conditions of the path. That's why we study on Thursdays usul tariqah, and we see what the concept of when one wants to traverse upon the path of character rectification. What does that mean, and how do we go about it? And some people, Allah did facilitate a tariqah in your area. You may not know anybody who's upon tasawwuf correctly. You may be on this journey alone at this point. So if you see this video, my Sheikh told me, and I'm telling you, if you don't have a Sheikh, salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ is your Sheikh. If you don't have a weird, salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ is your weird. So you do have one. If you have the Book of Allah, you have a awrad. Choose a certain amount of Quran to read every day. Reflect on those sections you read every day. Implement the lessons that you develop and derive from the Quran every day. Ask questions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you do not know, then ask the people of the reminder. Who are them? The Rabbaniyun, those who know and practice what they know. Whether he be called Sheikh, Imam, Brother Fulan, who you know, whoever. Ask questions. You know who's qualified. When you go to a doctor, you knew he was an actual doctor. And it's funny because people never say, can I see your isnat? Can I see your credentials, doctor? What school did you go to and how did you get your license to do surgery? You don't ask them that. As soon as somebody tell you something about Islam, you don't bother checking where they got it from. And I'm not talking about the whole, where's the dalil? You just take it from Sheikh Google. Anybody get on the camera and tell you anything, you don't even verify before you run with it. Because especially if it go with your desires. I already had a funny feeling about them dudes. It was something different. I knew it was weird. Finally, I found something to support that. This is Ahlul Hawaii. These are people of desire. They're trying to be people of the Sunnah. People of the Sunnah, of the Quran. So to close out, the Sheikh says, for any that are deprived of an enlightening guide, or meaning doesn't have a Sheikh, then his Sheikh is the shaitan who unavoidably leads him into the depths of perdition. Whatever his wishes may be. Meaning whatever he desires, he wants the shaitan. Whatever he desires, he wants, the shaitan will lead him there. Man can't guide himself. This is the concept of Sheikh Khadim Rasul is following up on in his notion. And this right here is a very well-known concept among the people of Tasawwuf. It's just like any other science. You should find somebody to help you on the path. The reason why Sheikh Murshid is good and is highly recommended is because he's gonna kind of assess you for what flaws you may have. That Murshid, the Murshid is the guide. The Murid is the seeker. So the Murshid maybe because it's different. You have an imam that just teaches you outward practices, and then you have an imam that teaches you the adab of the inner practices. It's called a sheikh al-murabbi, and it may be the same teacher, somebody different. You know what I mean? But don't misunderstand me. I'm not demeaning having a sheikh or having a tariqah. I follow a tariqah. What I'm saying is, until Allah guides you to one where you feel that that's the fit for you, until you get there, the steps to start on purification, because it's not about the tariqah, it's not about the shit, it's about purifying yourself so you could stand before Allah with the purest heart you possibly can have, to whatever is your capability that Allah decrees for you to have. So first and foremost, yes, it's encouraged that you do. If you have the availability, you know people who practice tasawwuf, get with them and maybe they can put you on, teach you some books, and you do like what we're doing now, studying a text from Sheikh Khadim Rasul, the founder of the Muridiya Tariqa, a scholar of the science of tasawwuf, a great scholar. So what we're doing is studying this text. You guys don't have to be Muridiya. You may end up whatever path. And he talks about that. Every weird is good. All the out, all the tariqas are good. It doesn't matter which one you choose to follow. Everybody, Allah's going to guide you the way He wills. But to just try to do it on your own, you will have many mistakes. And especially if you don't understand the science, certain terminologies is going to throw you off. And like the brother said, or you may fall in with the wrong kind of people. So that's why it's good to first learn the basics of Islam. So if somebody's going against what you know from the Aqidah, or they're going outside the practice of fiqh, or they disregard it, you be like, what school do y'all follow here? And they're like, oh, we don't really follow a school here. You already know the lead. There's nothing to talk about. Because Imam Malik, we're Maliki. So Imam Malik told us what? He said, Rahimullah, he said, whoever studies fiqh without tasawwuf will be a fasting. He'll be hard-hearted to the people. Whoever studies tasawwuf without fiqh will be a heretic, a zendi. So go to extremes. That's what's going to keep you within the confines of your proper deen. So when somebody says, oh, well, the Sheikh, he don't pray. He don't lead us in prayer because he's got such a level with Allah that the obligatory prayers are no longer upon him. Assalamu alaikum, I'm out. What? There's no human being at the prayers. The prayers are coming upon all of the children of Adam. It's obligatory on everybody, even non-Muslims. They're supposed to be praying. But once they hear the call to Islam and they're obligated to accept it, then they have to pray the prayer of the Muslims. But every human being has the call of da'wah for him. The Quran is for all. Allah is the God of all. So when somebody tell you these type of things, that's just an example, maybe an extreme example. But there are people like this, the dancing and circles, and they go all in motion, and they going, you're like, what is going on? This ain't worship. How's that worshiping Allah? But people fall into this because it look good and they desire, wow, they might be real nice people and welcoming and the food was real good. They upon bidah. They upon blameworthy bidah muharram, or bidah to makruh. So we need to be mindful of this. So this is why learning first is very, very important. So we'll end here. I don't want to really continue because then he's gonna start to get into the actions of the weird as far as like if one gets lazy and things of that nature. But well, I got you, man. So 1 second. But I just, like I said, so you just want to be mindful that this is very good advice from the Sheikh, speaking about not allowing people to distract you, not allowing their in-car to make you feel belittled or make you feel like you're upon something that's incorrect. This is very new for us. Don't be ashamed of loving the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Don't be ashamed of calling him the beloved, of saying his noble face. Don't be ashamed. Read the Shema'il. Many of us don't read it. We know about the Shema'il of At-Tirmidhi. There's other versions of it, short versions. Read Ashifab called the Iyad. Learn, read the Sirah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Learn about who he was. Learn to love him and learn to be with him by studying his life and emulating his practices within that life. Learn about his wives. Learn about his companions. But most importantly, learn about him. All of that inculcates his life. You know what I'm saying? We need to learn about the traits of the Prophet, learn about the things he did, and then when we practice it, it'll increase your love for him. Follow his way. So, when the Sheikh talks about ignoring people that do inkar, and understand you don't want to be of those people who waste time, or rather than do a weird or something beneficial, will do something that is blameworthy or even haram. And these are going to be the ones on the day of judgment who have no reward because they invested nothing in their akhirah. They put nothing in here. You will be recompensated for what you did in this life, in the next life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that. So if you don't work, you don't eat. You don't grind, you don't shine. You don't put in the work to elevate your character and practice what you learn, you're not going to get any better. You're just going to get worse or be where you're at. It's not for everybody. Everybody doesn't want to put in the effort. It's no different with studying any other Islamic science. Not to know this, our classes never have many people. Why? Because seeking traditional knowledge, even through technology, is not popular anymore. Even when teachers teach for free, people don't show up. But Thursday is always popular. Spring break always gonna be popular. OnlyFans always gonna be popular. You think it's Muslims that don't subscribe to that? You think it's Muslims that don't participate in anything? Let's not be delusional. Don't lie to yourself. You'll see people will break their neck to buy concert tickets, but will complain about catching a plane to go to an Islamic conference. They'll fly out to somewhere to go. They'll fly out to Vegas, or fly out to South Beach, fly out to Puerto Rico, Jamaica, wherever, but you won't fly from one state to another to support the Muslims and the benefit and learn and travel for your knowledge. You just have to be mindful. So it's really beautiful advice to ignore those who make in cars, to not be of those who make in cars, to learn and understand that this is for your benefit and always keep it about Allah. Keep your niyas sincerely for Allah's wedge and ask Allah to increase you in your love of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so that you won't be one of the losers on the day of reward. So it's really beautiful advice from the Sheikh. Go ahead, man.
I was just gonna piggyback off what you were saying about, people going in with the people breakdancing, moving and gyrating in the masjid. They do it because it feel good, things like that. I was just gonna say most cults and false beliefs, they're not substantiated by evidence. It's all about emotion. So you might, put up on you, they love bomb you, make you feel love, make you feel brotherhood. You look at, I don't want to talk about bad about other people's religion, but some religions are always about a testimony. I used to smoke crack and then I saw this and I saw a vision, or I used to be, you know what I'm saying? It's all about emotions and testimonies. It's never substantiated by any evidence because they don't have any. And that's how the real little bit of work like this. Either they have no evidence at all, or the evidence is actually contradicting them and explicitly telling you not to do these things. Whereas real Islam, is based upon evidence. It's based upon evidence, and that could be, like the Medina or Hadith, statements of scholar. You have to bring something to substantiate it. It can't just be, oh, I went inside of the masjid and I like how they break danced. I like how they crump. That's not the deal. That's you could go in the block and crump with no religion. So I thought that was just a real good point.
Alhamdulillah, I agree. Alhamdulillah, you're right. And this is why also he warns about the need for a sheikh or for a guide. I don't even want to necessarily, because in America, when we hear sheikh, we think it has to be an old man that's very, very learned. So let me just say a guide. Because it may not, as Sheikh Mujahid taught us, he said it may not be an imam or sheikh. It could just be a brother that's on the path, a fellow murid, fellow seeker, a fellow one that's on his path. He may just put you on. Like I found out about the book Al Khilasa from my little bro Wali. You know, may Allah bless him for that. He's the Alawi, and he told me about the book, and I love it. I never knew about it. I got the book. I love the du'as in it. It's very beneficial. It's a regular part of my daily and weekly outard. I like it. So he's not a sheikh, but he helped me on that path and gave me something that helps me to feel closer to the Prophet and to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what it's all about. So, it is important to have a guide, because if you don't, like with anything, like Imam Amin Hafidullah said, he said you could read a book. It's okay to read the books, but ask questions. You read that book, you're gonna have questions that develop, and then go ask somebody you learn that's qualified in that subject that you read. We have to put that work in to find qualified teachers. And when you find one, trust him. And whatever he's qualified in, study everything that he's qualified in so that you'll have clarity. If he's qualified in hadith, don't go bring him a book on tafsir. Why are you reading a book on tafsir when you got a teacher right now who's qualified to teach you usul hadith, and then maybe even read upon you muwatta or some of Sahih Bukhari or way. Now you can learn how to memorize the hadith, learn about ilm al-rijal, learn about the different types of hadiths and the conditions and all the obligations and the host, and start to learn the basic foundations of that science enough to where it now elevates your understanding of the sunnah. We got to put the work in to find it. People will make a profile to go on a dating app with no problem, spend $30 a month and years on that dating site. But you won't put that same energy into spending time on those same platforms that have teachers teaching every day, scholars teaching every day, YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, Zoom, Skype. There's no excuse. You have to put the work in. But we set up and look for everything else. Dunya. You can find Quran teachers, Arabic teachers, school, daycare, help, wet nurses, anything you need Allah has blessed us with this technology to make everything right at your fingertips. You just got to put the effort in. I'm shy. I'm not don't like talking to people. Yeah, la. Get out of that. You got to put yourself out there. Imam Malik Rahimullah, he said, knowledge is going too. It doesn't come to you. It's not gonna fall on your lap. You got to go get it. You want it, go get it. And when you find it, take advantage of it and take your time. Imam Shafi Rahimullah, he said, when you seek knowledge, it takes uh sincere intention and a lot of time. These scholars spend years. You're gonna spend the rest of your life studying. Take your time with the text. It's how you memorize bit by bit, a little bit by a little bit. If you spending your time, you trying to keep all everybody. Well, he read this book, he read that book, you'll accumulate. It'll start to pile up little by little. Like the Salaf say, for an ocean was not an ocean, but by drops of water. Everything in moderation. Check Salaf Rahimullah, he said that the moon doesn't start off full, it starts as a hilal. And then slowly as the month goes on, it gradually becomes full. This is the way of seeking out. A little bit at a time. Build. You might not be in the advanced class of Arabic. You're in the beginner's class. That's all right. You're still learning your Alif Bat Tat. But in 6 months, you'll be intermediate. And in 6 months, you'll be advanced. And then the new guys will be looking down the classroom, looking at you. And you'll be like, man, you're going to get there, bro. That's how it starts. You don't start with bench pressing 300-400 pounds. You might be weak. You might need a little 10. You need 10 dumbbells. That's all right. You're not ready for the 40s. That's okay. You'll get there. That's why you can't worry about other people. You got to focus on you and make sure your intention is always for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to seek the understanding, to remove the ignorance of your lack of knowledge of Him, to learn and then to practice what you learn and then call to that which you learn and practice through action and through words. We're supposed to invite everybody to Islam. This is an obligation upon the believers. But that was not for everybody. Everybody don't have to formally be a da'i. You don't have to be a da'i. See, these titles, so people, oh, I'm not a da'i. You are a da'i. You're a Muslim. There's no religious people. We're all religious people in Islam. We all have the same beliefs. It's just some people's actions follow more into the obligations and stay away from the prohibitions than others. This is why the iman increases and decreases with your actions. The more obedience you show, the higher your iman will go. The more disobedience, the lower. This is what it is. You say you will believe all day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, did you think you could say you believe and I wouldn't test you as I tested those before you? You will be faced with calamities, with losses on different levels. All of this will be strengthened on the path of tazkiyah ul-nafs. When you can accept the qadr, it's good and it's bad, and be pleased with it. Amadou Bamba, he said something when he talks about his section of the qadr in Tazawudu Sigar. He said that the qadr sometimes is sweet and sometimes it's bitter. It could be sweet like the reward for the believer, and bitter like the punishment for the what is he called, the mujrimun. Look how he compared it. It could be sweet like the reward of the believer, meaning the one who responds with the beliefs of a Muslim, who responds with the actions of a Muslim, because belief is intrinsic to action. You will never see Iman without Amadou Salih in the Quran. They go together in Islam. It's not enough to just say what you are. You have to show it in every aspect of life. Oh, I feel this, but you don't show it. I'm a Muslim, but you don't act like it. I love her, but you don't act like it. I want this job, but you don't act like it. I want to learn it, but you don't act like it. I respect you, but you don't act like it. So it all goes together. The words, the words show through your action. That's where your sincerity is at. How do we show sincerity and love? And we love Allah with obedience. That's what Islam is. I told you, جواره جميعا قول وفعل فهو إسلام رافع. And all of the limbs are in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the word and the action. This is the exalted Islam. Simple. So we'll close there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who strive to obey Him and seek His forgiveness for our shortcomings. May He make us of those who love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with a love that is His right, with a love that is better than the love that we give anyone or anything. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us upon the correct beliefs and upon the Siratul Mustaqim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon us and our families. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the Ummah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us guided upon the haqq. and keep us attached to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to Akhul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Ameen, Allahumma ameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa muqtadi.